expenses. For as little as 75 cents per day, you can ensure that your expenses are covered. Call Beacon at 440-4447 and sign up for the Rest Easy plan today.
2 times 2 is 4. 2 times 3 is 6.
Education multiplies their chances and places the world of opportunity in their hands. No matter where they are in the world, make sure they are prepared for their journey back to school with Western Union. School fees, books, room and board, whatever the reason. Knowledge, independence, opportunity. Western Union, moving money for better.
And we are back. And we are back inside the ladies' room on this Tuesday, June 15th. Good morning again, everyone. It is indeed a pleasure to have you here with us. And if you're listening on radio, remember you can always join us on our Facebook Live to be interactive and, of course, to follow along with the conversation. Would we really love to have you guys here. Alrighty, let me just say good morning to those of you already coming in. You know what you gotta do. As soon as you enter, just hit the share button and give other folks the opportunity to be part of our conversation this morning. And I can promise you it's going to be a really good one. Like I said, we're going to have a really frank and open, candid conversation with Dr. Bubb this morning. So I really love you guys if you can join us and share the live, all right? Because I think that especially the young men would love if you guys can be a part of it because as I said, we're celebrating fathers on Sunday, and this week we sort of putting the spotlight on men, and plus what happened, what transpired last Monday, I think it was, really thrust men in the spotlight again, in ways we probably wouldn't have wanted, but hey, we've been focusing a lot on them, and of course talking about them men, what's going on, and how we can get men to speak up more, to display their emotions and their feelings, and just be vulnerable, and not bottle everything inside, and then we have an explosion of sorts. So it was on that ground we started off with the men, and then of course Sunday being Father's Day, like I said, it really, really lined up nicely. Nevertheless, we are happy to have you here. And just want to welcome everyone joining us for the first time. And for those of you who've been here before, thank you. Seems that we have a little connection problem there with as soon as we get that, we'll rejoin. Okay, we'll join us shortly. Yes, seems as though we have a slight connection issue there. Anyways, like I said, it's going to be a really nice conversation, and you guys can chime in. And, if you know any young men or men in general you'd like to hear what we're going to talk about, feel free to invite them to be part of it, because this is really a success story in every sense of the word. Hold on, let's trying to Kellon, maybe you can just go out and come right back in. Yeah, I don't know what happened there, but all right, I think we've alrighty. So we had a little issue there with the connection. So let's not jinx it. Dr. Bubb, good morning. I am so thrilled to have you here, and I know you're on vacation in Costa Rica. I'm peeping the pictures. So for you to take the time out to come talk to us whilst on vacation, because I'm the type, when I'm on vacation, I disconnect totally. I'm not talking to nobody. This is my time. And you've been working so hard. You really deserve this. So for you to take the time out, I really, really appreciate it. So how are you?
I am doing well. First and foremost, it is a pleasure to be on the ladies' room this morning. And yes, I'm on vacation. I'm in Costa Rica. So I do apologize if the connection is a bit spotty. We do have some very bad internet over here. So I want to apologize in advance. But certainly it is a pleasure to be here. And my orientation is always public service and whatever I can do to give back. And even though I'm on vacation, notwithstanding, whatever I can do, however my voice can help to make a difference in our community, I will be more than happy to do that.
I mean, congratulations are definitely in order. I think folks are so proud of you because for those who know you, know the journey. It hasn't been, an easy one. And to seeing you with doctor before your name, how does that feel?
It is still very surreal. It is still, when people address me as Dr. Bubb, and I was like, okay, wow, this really happened, right? This really happened. It's still, I'm still in that new phase. It's still a novel phase for me, and so it is not something that I ever imagined that would occur in my own life. I mean, growing up in Grenada, you hear about doctors,
Mm-hmm.
and they have that there is a particular aura that comes with being a doctor, right?
Respect. Mhm.
Whether that is a medical doctor or whether you are an academician, such as myself, a social scientist. So it's very surreal, but it is also the product of hard work. It is a realization of a dream, really, and it is not something that I really started off my academic career and say, you know what, I want to be a doctor. That's not how it happened, right? It was a result of following a particular passion in life, and that is a passion for research. That is a passion for media and communication, and reaching, trying to reach the highest heights with respect to my professional and academic career, and that's what it was about for me.
So we'll definitely go a little bit more in depth later on. But all for now, I want to backtrack a bit to your upbringing.
Yes,
Like I said, yesterday we had the conversation about fathers not being present in their children's life and the impact it could have, and how children really suffer from not having their father's touch in their lives, and we hear of a lot of single parents, single mothers doing it on their own. Fathers probably would,
correct.
do, the most. So here's a couple
Hmm.
dollars, provide, some food, and that's it. But the physical present, being there,
Hmm.
taking your child running, walking, playing some ball, just having that one-on-one, interaction, a lot of that is missing. And based on what transpired, of course, last Monday, you hear so many things when things like that happen. And like I said, the spotlight is on men and especially young men. Um, a couple months ago, there's a video circulating of students from a particular school, and when the question was asked of those young men, if you had the power to do whatever, the opportunity to do whatever, I'm paraphrasing here, but if you had the opportunity to do whatever, or if you were to die and you were given a chance to do whatever, and some of the things that they said, it wasn't like, what, not like I want to be rich, I want to have a lot of money. It was concerning the females, like have all the sex in the world. I'll rape, I'll do this and the other. And it was really disheartening, to hear young men speak. And there's a lot of that that's going on. A lot of, questions has been raised as a result of what's happening with our young men.
Hmm.
You grew up here. Speak to us on your journey from then, and then we'll talk about now. What was it like for you? So we have to apologize again. Like I said, he is out there and the
Hmm.
internet is not spotty, so we just have to wait until we get that connection. All right. You hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. You should. Okay. I'm here now. Yes. Yes. So yes. So I'm aware of the video that you speak about. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and it is a product of colonialism. It is a product of misogyny. It is a product that of just that kind of history, and we have to couch that in that particular legacy if we want to have a conversation about the way men view women. It is also that intergenerational transmission of misogyny from one generation to the next, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's also biblical. I'm sorry, but it's also biblical. The Bible talks about ways in which women, sorry, should submit to their husbands, and
Mm-hmm.
ways in which women should be seen as second fiddle within
Mm-hmm.
on the totem pole with respect to how society is ordered, so that
Mm-hmm.
that kind of narrative that we hear from these young men, we should not be surprised by it. Okay, we should not be surprised, and so what needs to happen is that there has to be a cultural change But because we have to chip away at these norms, that will take some time. Yes,
Mhm,
these ideas are deeply entrenched into our society. I mean, when I was growing up, I mean, I saw ways in which men catcalled my own mother, right?
mhm,
In my community, I saw ways in which women were abused. My own mother was a victim of abuse. Okay,
mhm,
and so for me, I think what needs to happen is that those of us who have that awareness of how we can do better, who have that awareness of the harms that misogyny can do to
mhm,
society, right?
mhm,
That we should use our platforms to essentially change that narrative and to change that thinking around what it means to be a man, first of all, what it means to be masculine, and 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 get away from the idea that being a man means being dominant to the woman, or being a man
mhm.
means being as they call it, the ram goat of the village, if you will,
Mhm.
or conquering as many women that you want to quote unquote
And,
conquer, right?
and we applaud that.
Versus if
Society applauded
and
that
we
then.
applaud
The
that.
men
Society
period.
applaud that. Man, and we call women thing, that thing, boy, I had that
Exactly.
thing,
And if a bad word to say, listen, I
right?
have one girlfriend, he will be cheated by his friends. We're like, "What? Something wrong with you? Well, they could have one woman, one
Right.
girl.
But correct. But the other difficulty with that narrative is that if women were to play the field in that way, then the narrative that we apply to women are that they are, excuse my French, that they're sluts, or that they're whores, excuse my French. But that's how we view these women. And so whenever something happens to a woman, such as what we saw in Jean Anglais last week, there is a tendency to blame the victim. There is a tendency to say, well, perhaps she was cheating on him. Perhaps, there were things that she should not have been doing to aggravate the man. Well,
And
why
I'm
should
happy
it be
you
on
said that
her?
because
Yes,
Kellon, Dr. Bubb, I'm to refrain from calling Kellon. I have to give you a
that's
due.
okay. That's okay.
Um, someone who's been in the media for a long time,
Yes,
and I saw a story in one of our weekly newspapers. Someone, and well, no name mention of who, but reliably informed, and that entire article was basically speaking on this woman and not in a complimentary or flattering way.
right,
Everything was the way she lived, and it made it seem as though she should, like she deserved what happened because she lived that
correct.
particular way. She was with that particular man or how many and whatever. I can't believe like we actually have the media, newspaper writing and publishing articles like these, seeing what happened.
Correct. I addressed it on the Bubb report as well. I thought the article was tasteless. It was based on hearsay. It was based on conjecture. It was based on the same kind of sexism and misogyny that I just speak of. And again, we also have to acknowledge that newspapers are a reflection of society. It reflects our societies in ways that are extremely problematic. And so we have to be able to dismantle these narratives. And those of us who have the platform, such as the Bubb Report, such as Ladies Room, which we've been doing an amazing job with Ladies Room, and other platforms, should begin the process of having to chip away at these very entrenched notions of how we view females in our society. And I think it's incumbent on those of us who know better should do better. Those of us who know better should do better. And the hand that rocks the cradle rules the world. I say to people, I would not be here had it not been for some very, very strong African women in my life. My
Mhm.
father was an absent father.
Let's speak on that. Let's
Okay,
speak on that.
my
So,
father was an absent. So please proceed. Yes,
yeah. Um, Growing up, like you said, your father was an absent father. And
yes,
I'm happy you said that because even yesterday I was making the point that I think that when you live and experience something, you're in a better position to make better decisions. And like I said, if you grew up in a home where there was no father present, and somewhere along the line you fathered one, two, three children, and you knew how you felt back then, having no,
yes,
you- why would
absolutely.
you turn around and do that to your children? Why would you turn around and do that to your children? Because you experienced it. You know what it felt like to not have your father present in your life. And that should not be an excuse for you to be a better person. too many times we use the excuse of, okay, well, that's what I know, that's how I grew up, and leave it at that. To me, it is the best place to make a decision to want better for yourself and to do better for yourself. And you are definitely an example because, like you said, father wasn't present. Oh, let me just wait until he comes back. As soon as he does, I'll continue. Yeah.
Okay, here I am.
Can you hear
Yes,
me now?
yes,
Good.
yes,
Yeah.
yes, yeah,
So,
yeah.
as
So,
I'm saying, you're the perfect
yes,
example.
I can hear you.
You did not have a father present, but here you are. You decided, you know what? I want better for myself. You did not grow up with a whole gold spoon in your mouth and what you knew the struggle, but you want better for yourself. So that's why
Correct.
we decided to use you this morning to speak on that. So from growing up without the father present to where you are now, let's talk about that.
Yeah. So, and the funny part is, part of my family on my paternal side of the family, my aunts who raised me were siblings to my dad. My grandmother, that was my father's mother. Yes.
Mhm.
My mom was a single mom, working class mom. She was a domestic worker, and there were a lot of women around us, but there were also some men who were fathers in my community in Pomerose who also chipped in.
Oops. Yeah. Internet is really horrible on his end, but as soon as he comes back, all right.
Back.
Let's go.
Yeah, the internet. I tell Grenadians, be grateful for what you have because we're here in
I
Central America.
appreciate
It's
it
it's
now.
it's a different. Yeah, but to your point, so there were some men in my life. I'm not saying this to discount the men who were there. My uncle, my mother's brother, was a father figure to me. Yes, there were other men in my community in Pomerose and Crochet who were also like fathers as well. So I'm not saying that they were not there. Some teachers, some male teachers, also play the role as fathers. In my experience, having attended both Pomerose RC School and Presentation College. But back to the point of the woman who who acted in that role. Essentially, they should not have had to play that role because I always say a woman does not have all of the tools necessary that a father would have. Yes,
Mhm.
with respect to how they should raise children. So I'm saying all of this to say that knowing what I know now, whenever I have children, which I intend to have children,
Mhm.
I would ensure that I am the best father I can be to my children.
Do you think,
Yes,
can a woman teach a man how to be a man, or a young boy? Can you teach us? Can a
I,
woman teach a son how to be a man? That's a question
I,
I
I
always.
think, well, I think that would be difficult because that is a product of lived experience. Okay, lived experience as a woman. As a woman, you grow within a particular sociocultural context. Similarly, with a man, you grow within a particular sociocultural context. So, therefore, to me, it would be very difficult for a woman to be able to teach those values of what it means to be a man. Again, which we also have to redefine what it means to be a man, right? But I
Mhm.
think having those male role models in one's life is extremely important. There are life conversations that I would prefer to have with a male than I would prefer to have with a female.
Mhm.
And this is not meaning to discriminate against what a woman brings to the table, but it's meaning to say that this is what a man can contribute towards the mentorship of a young man. I can speak, for example, again going back to my uncle. My uncle taught me some very important values of ensuring that you're reliable, ensuring that you're respectful to women as well, right? Teaching me values of hard work and accountability. Yes, and in the way that men are viewed in society and the way that men should be seen. Okay. Similarly, there was a retired police inspector of police. I don't want to mention his name because probably he doesn't want to be exposed, but he was also a great mentor in my life. And there were life lessons that I learned from him that I felt were extremely important that perhaps based on his lived experience would add value to mentorship in a way that the lived experience of a woman would not.
All right. Now, in terms of, like I said, your journey, walk us through that. You grew up little boy, and you decided, of course, you dabbled in the media and what have you. Um, from then, what made you want to do better and be better, despite where you came from?
You know what? I would credit that to my mother. So I lost my mother at a very young age. I lost my mother when I was only 19 years old. My mother was a cancer sufferer. She had leukemia. And so that was one of the reasons why, there was probably also not a father figure in my life, too. But going back to that, my mother was always a source of encouragement for me, just the support that she gave me. And she always said to me, look, I want you to be better than me. I want you to have better life outcomes than I did. Okay. And so, Aruna, can you hear me?
Yes, I'm hearing you.
Just want to make sure.
Hmm.
Let's see. I don't know if I'm.
Yes, I'm not hearing you now. It's sort of lagging a bit. Um,
The connection is bad.
I'm here. Are you hearing me? Hold on. Let me see. Yeah, your connection. Okay, hold on. It seems we
All
have
right,
to
let
jump
me
in now.
go back
Kellen,
again.
you hearing me? You hearing me now, Kellen? Hmm.
Connection
Maybe
bad
like
boy. What?
you probably have to jump out and in it. Jump out and come right back in. Yeah, it really makes us appreciate that we usually hear complaining about our service, right? But we managed to get along fine with it and without any glitches or hiccups. This is really making me appreciate our service right now. So next time I'm about to complain, I'm gonna be like, remember.
Yeah, the other parts of the world. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So back to so I think what was responsible, what was just that positive reinforcement. My mom was all about positive reinforcement. So was my grandmother, who was another working class woman from Guelph. There were other folks, by the way, in my community, both in Pomeroy's and in Four Roads, because I lived in Four Roads for a part of my life. Uh, who there was this self-fulfilling prophecy that I probably would end up like some of the other guys in the community, right? That I would end up um, in jail or end up a drunk or end up on the block or whatever negative stereotype that was held about certain communities. There was that self-fulfilling prophecy there. But so for me, whenever there were these negative stereotypes thrown at me, these negative self-fulfilling prophecies.
Mhm.
I use that as motivation. I use that as rocket fuel. And I said, no, that's not what's going to happen with my life. This is not how I want to live my life. Okay. I want to have better outcomes for myself. I have dreams. I am ambitious. And I am going to work towards those dreams. And so I think it's important. Words matter. Words matter. And
Affirmation, right?
if
Powerful.
yes, positive affirmations matter. And my deceased mother was an extremely positive person, always positive. She always really inspired me to see the world. And she bought me newspapers. Let me give you a fun fact about my mom, and those who know my mom from Primrose would know that. Every week, my mom would buy all three weekly newspapers.
Hmm.
In addition to that, where she worked as a servant, as a domestic worker, she worked as a domestic worker with a family who taught at the St. George's University. They were both of them were medical doctors who were also professors at the university. So whenever they had magazines, whenever they went back to the States and they left magazines at their home in Lansepine, my mom would take all of the magazines. It was a Time magazine, it was Life magazine,
Hmm.
uh, it was a New York Times magazine. And so my mom would take all of those, okay, hand me downs. They would call that hand me downs. But for me, it was an opportunity to learn about the world, not only Grenada, but to learn around the world about the world around me.
You are so
In
correct.
addition to that,
I think
yes, go ahead.
like folks my age, your age, around that. Back then, that's the only thing we had. Either the
Correct.
Mills and Boons, the Hardy Boys, whatever books we had
Yes.
books because we weren't, in a position to have television and have radio and different stations and what have you. So it was a thing back then. to have the
Correct.
newspaper, and everybody waited their turn to read the newspaper. All three of them, and you read. It was an in thing, It wasn't something like you just did because you didn't have a choice. You had to read
Yes.
it,
You
you
had
know.
to read it. You
And,
had to. You had to.
sadly, now you're looking at students and going to school, and it amazes me just the simple words, and it's misspelled.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
Hmm.
wow, even young adults, simple words,
Yeah.
it's misspelled, and it's like, no,
Hmm.
and they're telling you it's not a big deal. Social media is not a classroom, but it
It
is
is
a
a big.
big
I'm
deal,
sorry. It is a big deal.
because that's
People
where it
think that.
starts.
Well, yeah, correct. And part of it too is that we have to appreciate basic things like grammar. And this is not to suggest that you cannot segue into your colloquialism,
Of
okay?
course.
But communication is contextual. Communication is contextual, and you have to be able to communicate in a way that everyone can understand what you're saying, right? But back to just the way my mom raised me into reading the newspapers. One of the things that I had to do after I read the newspapers and the magazines, I had to report to my mother. I had to summarize to my mother
Look what
what the
happens.
stories of the week were.
Mhm.
And she gave me a homework assignment every at the end of every week. Not only did I have to summarize to her, but I had to go tell my aunt and my
Mhm.
grand aunt and everybody in the village what happened in the world around me. Yes. So I think from that early age, that love of reading was inculcated at a very early age, even before I passed common entrance to go to PVC. Yes. And in addition to that, you just mentioned radio. Growing up, I never had a television. There was no television in the house. There's no
Mhm.
television set. We had a radio, and so one of the activities that I enjoyed was listening to the Young Ones program that was hosted by
Yes.
Josephine Maguire. You listen to George Grant and Lou Smith in the morning on my way. I'm preparing for school, and I can just picture me walking down the hills of Primrose on my way to school, and everyone's radio sets are turned up,
No.
listening to Lou Smith and George Grant in the morning, and listening to the BBC. Okay,
Mhm.
I remember distinctively two events. When Herbert Blaze died, we found out about Herbert Blaze's death on the radio, and everyone
Mhm.
in the community in Primrose came together in this physical public square to talk about the news of Herbert Blaze's death.
Yes,
I
yes,
also
yes.
remember the Abu Bakr coup, the attempted coup
Mhm.
in
In
Trinidad
Trinidad,
and Tobago.
that's where
I
you
learned
found it.
that from radio.
Mhm.
Yes. So I'm saying all of this to say that in my growing up, even though we were poor, right? We were poor, and we were products of the working class. It didn't feel like that for me,
Mhm.
because I had an affirming mother, but I also had an affirming community in Primrose. I always shout out the teachers at the Primrose RC School, teacher Patsy Klein, Joan Joseph, teacher Denise, teacher Lloydie, teacher Eddie, teacher Jacqueline, teacher Gloria. I remember them all by name. Teacher
Mhm.
Violet,
Mhm.
may her soul rest in peace. Teacher Hummy.
Mhm.
All of these
They
teachers
all
played,
influenced you.
all influenced me.
So,
They
so,
played
so
a
do you think?
positively affirming role in my
So,
life.
so, Dr. Bob, do you think, as a result of, and so many can make reference to how we back in the day and now, in terms of, the entire village, being a part of our upbringing, and
Yes,
now it's a different story. I remember when I knew my mother and a neighbor had some issues, and I passed that morning, and I did not say anything, no good morning. I passed back from
you
school. I
never
did
do that. Yes.
and I got home, and I was like flogged for that. I'm like, what y'all ain't talk? It was not your business. You're a child, stay in a child's place. What you doing in me and whoever business?
Correct.
And they had the village had the authority from your parents. If they see you doing anything, or
Hmm.
you are behaving a particular way, they had permission
That was a no-no.
to pull
Yes.
you up.
Hmm.
To pull you up. Now it's a
Correct.
case of, if you were to tell somebody about their child not behaving a particular way, they will dress you down. They'll curse you out.
Hmm. Hmm.
Everybody's like, okay, let me mind my business. When I close my
Yes.
door, what happens behind my door is my business. I don't care what your
Hmm.
son or daughter is doing, nothing to do with me. Do
Hmm.
you think what we're living now is a result of, not having that, the upbringing we had back then?
Yeah, I think a number of factors are responsible for that. One, I think Grenada, as other developing countries, are becoming much more modern. And so because we're becoming much more modern, we are adopting sort of an individualistic approach to living, really, right? It's about me, myself, and I. That is the American way. That is the North American, the European, the Western way of things, if you will, right? Just um, every man to himself, and because it's every man to himself, whatever I do, or if you see my child doing something horrible, or going back to issues of domestic violence, if you see a woman being beaten in the community, you say, well, look, that's not my business,
My business.
right? And to me, that is sort of problematic, because we have to again realize, and I'm a product of the village. I tell people I'm a product of the village that I grew up in. Now, mind you, I may not agree with everything that
Mm-hmm.
with respect to religion, for example, or with respect to some aspects of socialization and things like that, sexuality and things like that. But there are underlying values that transcends those things,
Mm-hmm.
that can really affect and impact you in a positive way. And I think there has to be a good middle ground where you say, okay, there are some aspects of the village that we still need to continue with, while at
Mm-hmm.
the same time embracing some aspects of
Changes. Mm-hmm.
modernization. And I believe that twinning is possible. But again, it goes back to having that being intentional about those things.
Mm-hmm. And talking about being intentional, I like that word. And you have to also be intentional about your purpose and what it is you want, despite
Correct.
where you came from. Because, like I said,
Yes.
you were shining an example of where you came from and where you are now, with a doctor before your name. And like you said, grew up
Yes.
poor, but we grew up poor, but you're still rich in the love and,
Yes.
support and all of that. So you didn't feel like you were poor. It's after your
Correct.
eyes open to the world and you start seeing things on
Yes.
television, you're like, but wait, I was really poor. Like, you know, when you saw when you see
Yeah.
these things, you only realize like you were really
Yeah.
poor. Poor
Right.
wasn't the word you used back in the day because
No.
they made it work. No matter how small it is, you had something to eat before you go to bed. You know, and now you can say, okay, well, I never had steak when I was growing up, but hey, that didn't mean I was hungry.
I had fig and saltfish, right?
And here you are now, you're able to vacation in Costa Rica with doctor
Right.
before your name. So that
Correct.
means you cannot be a product of your environment if you choose not to be. It's all
Exactly.
it's all to do with choices and like you said, positive affirmations. What do you want for
Hmm.
yourself? I've
Correct.
experienced hardship. Do I want to stay here? Do I want my children to experience hardship like I did, or I'm going to better myself so they can have a better life? Now you've been through all of that, and what would you say motivated you to continue doing it, to continue to stay the course and not giving up? Because I'm sure there are times you probably felt like, you know what, this is too much.
Absolutely. And I say to people, I say to my students all the time, I say to young men and women that I mentor in the Washington, D.C. area, it's part of the Boys and Girls Club of America, that look, you're looking at me today as someone who earned an education, but I had very dark and difficult days in my own life. It was not easy. It was not easy.
Mhm.
Um, my immigration story to the United States was also not easy. Growing up in Grenada and working in the media was not easy. Okay, and especially the reality with media in Grenada. I wish they could give us a little more sense on the
Mhm.
dollar, right?
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
but it all has to do with being disciplined. Okay,
Mhm.
it is a mental discipline that you have to have. Because with those obstacles, I remember there were days when I worked as a dishwasher in New York, and I'm not ashamed to say that.
Mhm.
And there are those of us in Grenada, and I'm going to get off on a tangent. There are those of us in Grenada who knock people that are
Mhm.
babysitters, who knock
Mhm.
people that are home health aides, who knock people that are doing quote unquote menial jobs. Yes, and we
Mhm.
laugh at them.
Mhm.
But at the end of the day, a lot of these folks are supporting families. They're
Remittances do not
contributing
say
to the
does not
economy
say
of Grenada
a
by
wash
way of
condition
remittances.
on it. Mhm.
Okay? And so we have to get away from that respectability politics of, well, this person is not a lawyer. or this person is not a physician or an engineer, so therefore they're not successful.
True.
And we have to be able to redefine what
Success.
success is. We have to also be able to redefine what academic success is in our society. Having subjects are important, okay? But also having a skill in auto mechanics, having a skill in building construction and woodwork and masonry, right? Having a skill in craftsmanship, being able to make baskets. My aunt sold as a vendor. She was a very skilled vendor in her role as a vendor.
But
And
what
to
you find
me,
now, Dr. Bubb, is that
yeah,
a lot of parents want their children to be what they want them to be, what will make lift their
correct.
nose. I
And
want you
and
to be
and
a lawyer. I want you to be a
and
doctor. And never is like son or daughter, what do you really, really want? Because this is something you're gonna have to live with it the rest of your life. Not
right.
just
And
do
it
something,
wasn't
but you're not
correct.
happy with it. And
Right. It
every day
was
you
the
go
same
to
with my
work,
mom.
you're sucking
My
your teeth,
mom,
you're mad, you're upset
yeah,
at the world because there's no love for it. I say to people all the
right.
time, I don't come to work because I love what I do so much. It's like work. I get paid to do what I like, what I love. So it does not comes across as a job. So many people are going to
hmm
jobs,
Yeah,
because it pays the bill.
yes, right. No, you make a very good point. And so for me, um, if you're doing something you love, you never work a day in your life.
Mhm.
And I love media, I love communications, and I blame George Grant and Hamlet Mark for that because they came to a career day that that presentation college, my alma mater, was having when I was in Form 4. And that's where my love for media
Mhm.
really blossomed, and my interest in journalism and communication really blossomed.
Mhm.
And folks in the community said, he's very bright. He should become a lawyer. I didn't want to become a lawyer. I said to myself, no, I mean, I love arguing and I believe I would have
You're
made a great lawyer.
a fantastic lawyer, defensive.
Right. But that was not something that I felt I was passionate about. And it didn't mean that I was also done. So I got into law school in UE, but I never really pursued it. Never really pursued it. And part of that too, I could not have afforded it at the time. So there was that equation as well. But back to the point, Aruna, we all experience difficult times. I experienced difficult times on my journey. There were days when I did not know where my next meal was coming from.
Mhm.
In Grenada, there were days in the United States when uh, if I made the rent late, the landlord would threaten to kick me out of the apartment. I experienced those things in my life. Yeah. And a lot of those suffering, I'm glad that I have a very, very close circle of friends. I know a lot of people, but
Mhm.
I have very few friends.
Circle
I
is
have very few
important.
friends. But the people who know me intimately know those struggles and they know what I experienced. So that for me, it was always about having that disciplined focus. Every year, at the end of every year, I do a vision board. And I say, look, I may not be at the place in my life where I want to be now, but in 5 years, this is what I hope to accomplish.
Mhm.
And I look at that vision board and I revisit what those goals were to see if I'm actually meeting those goals or if I need to recalibrate and say, you know what, this is not working out. Let
That's
me see if
going
I can
forward.
find something else that I would be passionate about as well.
Mhm. Mhm.
So, to the young people who might be experiencing difficult times, to the young people, or even to adults
Mhm.
who
Mhm.
might be bullied, I was bullied a lot. People called me homophobic slurs. I was called Auntie K. That was a big one. I
Mhm.
embraced it. I embraced it. I mean, bullying did not affect me, and bullying does not affect me. I have a broad back. But there are people who may not have that same broad back and who may not be able to contend with that, or who may not be able to contend with some of the challenges that they are experiencing in their lives. Yes?
Mhm.
And so you always have to find people who are genuinely supportive
Mhm.
of your goals and your objectives, who are genuine. That's important. But also, it is important to acknowledge and realize that you always have to recalibrate. Success is not a destination, okay? Success happens to be a series of small accomplishments that you meet
Mhm.
at every step of the way.
Doesn't happen overnight, and I think that's
It
the
does
problem.
not happen overnight. It does not, and we live in an age of instant gratification.
Mhm.
Everyone wants things now. Okay, I would use the analogy of the PhD to reflect on this. During the PhD process, there are five key hoops that you have to jump through. After your first year, you have to do what is called the screening exam. If you fail the screening exam, you are kicked out of the program at Howard University. Bye bye, PhD. At the end of your second year, there is another exam that you have to take. You would not be kicked out, but you're given warning. Yeah. At the end of your third year, you have to do the comprehensive exam. That's a major exam. Many folks have failed that exam. They've taken it twice and three times. Okay. But what that does is that it sets you back a bit so that you would not be able to graduate on time. And then you have to do your dissertation proposal. After you do your dissertation proposal, you have to pass that. Then you have to do your dissertation defense. You have to pass your dissertation defense. Well, actually, before that, you have the pre-defense. And so these are series of hoops that you have to meet so that every step of the way, you consider those hoops or meeting those challenges as successes. And so that's how we have to view our own lives. We have to view it through the prism of these incremental accomplishments that we achieve over time. And for those, for example, who say, well, especially for young people, my path or my trajectory in education did not take the traditional path. When I completed my education at the TMI Community College, because I could not afford it, I did not go on to university in the traditional way. I worked in the media for many years before obtaining an opportunity to study in the Republic of China and Taiwan. That was 5 or 6 years after I graduated TMI Community College, right? I did not complete my master's perhaps 5 years after completing my first degree, and another 3 years before deciding to do a PhD. So we always tend to think of, well, it has to be, I want to get these things now. And that can frustrate you. That can frustrate you if you are working on a particular timeline that you're not meeting. And you're saying to yourself, well, there is something wrong with me. There is nothing wrong with you. Your time has not come as yet, but your time will come eventually.
But the word you use, discipline.
Correct. You have to be disciplined. You have to be very disciplined. If you're not disciplined mentally, or if you're a spiritual person, if you're not spiritually grounded, or if you do not have that strong faith and that support around you, and support is critical, Aruna, we have to have people around us who are honest with us. Not people who are just cheering us on or telling us what we want
regardless
to hear.
of what we do. And we have a lot of that. What they think you want to hear, what will make you feel good. The feel good.
Correct.
No.
And you need people, and I would say this, the people who are in my corner are people who are brutally honest with me. And those who know me know I'm a very direct person. I will come out and tell you what I have to tell you, what's on my mind. And my friends are the same. And so I'm grateful for those who were very direct with me, who said, look, you might be frustrated now, but you need to get it together, man. You need to get it together and recalibrate. And, there are friends who would encourage you and say, look, you can do better. There are things you can do better in your life. And so we have to be able to embrace those friends, not those friends who are just here for the ride with you and, who tell you what you want to hear. No.
No, tell me no too.
Correct.
Tell me when I'm messing up,
Yes.
Tell me when I'm messing up, and I think that is the major problem amongst the young people, not having someone, the guidance. I think that's what's sadly missing, the guidance. Everybody, it's like follow the leader. Nobody stands apart and say, you know what, we're not doing this. This is not a good look, So a lot needs to be done. And like I said, we have these platforms that we have to use. Can't just be all about, the sensationalism and, who's with who and who's doing what with their bodies and, who
taking who man and who and all of that. I mean, I know I'm on radio, but
yeah, we need to have, these sorts of conversations, make it work. We can. I'm sure if we have more of these, we'll see some changes along the way. People need to be motivated. They need to be inspired. They need something to look forward to. not just hearing the doom and gloom and the old, people want to hear these stories. And it was really, really wonderful of you to join us, to share your story. Like I said, you're always frank, you're always open and candid. So we know when we call you here, we don't have to wonder what should we ask a doc, because you're going to answer regardless.
I would answer regardless. Yes.
That's just who you are. So again, I want to say congratulations to you. Super, super, super proud of you. And there are many who have echoed the same sentiment, especially those who know you personally, where you came from and seen where you are now. I mean, it's like giving birth to a child and you give it to
Yeah.
somebody else. But
Yeah.
it's really good that you continue to do your best and continue to share that with us, as you go along your journey. Seems as though you've gone past the sky. You're on moon levels right now. So you can't say the sky is the limit. You're definitely out there jumping from planet to planet. So let's see which one you land on next. And like I said, we're following you and, super, super proud of you. Any final
Yeah.
words before we go?
Yeah, well, no, Aruna, I just want to compliment your Power FM and the staff at Power. I actually know Denise. Denise and I worked together in GBN. Denise was in the marketing department.
Yeah,
Always
she's
fun work,
awesome.
Yes, yes, and I'm so proud of Denise and the team at Power FM for the quality of radio that you're bringing to the Grenadian community, and the way that you also get the national community to interact with these very important conversations that you have. Those conversations are important, and we have to see media as an extension of our education systems. And those of us who have the platform of media should be very, again, I would use the word intentional about using our platforms to educate, empower, to teach, and to really give the national community different perspectives about the world around them. And certainly I want to thank you for that. And final words again, I can't, gratitude is a must. And I say this to people that I help, um, just don't be ungrateful. Don't uh, forget the people who helped you on the way up, because you will meet them on the way down, as Lucky Dubie says, and that's just the way it is. Yes, we have to be grounded and remember and acknowledge people who help us. No man is an island, no man stands alone. And so, on my personal Facebook page, I expressed gratitude when I completed my doctoral defense. And again, I would do it publicly to former, some of them retired now, my teachers at the St. Joseph's RC School in Pomrose and St. David's, my teachers at the J.W. Fletcher Memorial School. I had a brief stint there as well. My teachers at Presentation College in Grenada, Mr. Dominic Jeremiah, who is the current principal there. He was one of my early English language teachers who had a serious impact on my life. I also want to thank the media family. I'm a media man. I love journalism. I don't think I can get away from it. I don't think I've been trying to, but I can't. I have the Bubb Report now, and I teach
That's on
journalism and
Sundays at
communication.
11. Sundays at 11 a.m. Right?
Correct. The Bubb
11
Report,
a.m.
Sundays at 11. We're having a men's panel on Sunday, incidentally,
That'll be
which also dovetails into Father's Day. So that should be a good time as well. But my media fraternity in Grenada, those who passed, the late George Grant, the late Leslie Pierre, the late Levi Beno, all of these folks were part of my media family. Denise Park and the marketing, Josephine Maguire, Hamlet Mark, late George Grant, Leslie and Johnson,
Many of us,
all of these folks, Beverly Lewis, Trisha, Ruben, Royal Titus, all of these media folks who really, Callistra Faria, all of these folks took me on under their wing when I got into media, because I didn't know much, but I was very excited about learning. And I want to thank the entire community, those who know me and those who were invested in my development. I want to thank them, because without their support and encouragement, certainly I would not be here.
I am so grateful. Dr. Bubb, thank you so much. And until next time,
Absolutely.
enjoy the rest of your
Yes,
vacation.
always a pleasure.
All right.
It's good to be here. Have a good day.
All right. Have a good one.
All right.
And that concludes our program this morning. I know we went a bit overboard, but it was just so good speaking with Dr. Kellon Bubb, and hearing his story. So Basically, my takeaway, doesn't matter where you come from, right? Doesn't matter where you come from, should not stop you from reaching your goals. Just got to be disciplined about it. All right. Thanks again, everyone, for joining us. We'll be back tomorrow for another one. Until then, stay powered up. All compliments, all friends at Beacon Insurance and Western Union.